Yeah, I'm going to do part 2 of the stray voltage. This will be the second time that I found I had stray voltage. Now, the first time was back in 2014, had shorting out in a vacuum pump motor. After we corrected that, things increased. 15, 16 cows were milking good, and somewhere between 16 and 17, I was hitting the highest average per cow I've ever reached. Rolling herd average was the highest I've ever hit, and cows were just milking like crazy. Then they started dropping, and we couldn't figure nothing out. The nutritionist I was working with since 2011, 2012, somewhere in there, nothing he did made a difference. So after keep dropping on milk and just running the feed bill up, I ended up cashing out money out of my mutual funds just to pay off the feed bill. It was so damn high. I switched to another guy, and he wasn't doing nothing. So, nothing was changing. He was making changes, but nothing was improving either. So it had been around March of 2018. One morning I was setting up the parlor here, and I realized, as I'm bringing the milkers in, the cows are standing there just fine. But yet, I realized when I'm milking cows, they can't stand still. They bounce back and forth, not cooperative, kicking milkers and stuff. So, one morning, or that morning I should say, I was standing here, and this is where I wish I could get the video off the phone. I found the video, but I can't get it off my own phone yet somehow. Hopefully somehow I'll figure this out. But I just reached over and I turned on the vacuum pump. Like I said, these cows are standing here just fine. I turned on the vacuum pump, tail started switching, cows started rocking back and forth. I reached over, turned the vacuum pump off, and the cows stood there just fine. So that's where it got me thinking again that I got stray voltage. Now, I don't know nothing about electric or anything, or that much. So I started playing with this. Just a regular multimeter. And I would set it on volts, AC current, and I would go around. I was taking the black lead and I'd hold it between my fingers. I'd take the red lead and I'd come into milk house here, like right now, with everything off. I touch anything in here. Touch the pipeline, touch the bulk tank. I don't remember. I think I was touching the sink too. Just about anything. I was touching the concrete floor. And I would get a voltage reading like 0.25. So I keep playing around. And I play around on milk, and I notice I'm getting 0.4, 0.6. I keep getting all these different readings, but I'm getting a voltage reading. On rainy days, and one day I know I got 0.9 reading. So, they say, I don't know who the hell to call or whatever. Well, that nutritionist I was working with at that time, he gave me this guy's phone number. He's up in Syracuse, New York. So he specializes in stray voltage. And I called him, told him what was going on. And he came down, and this is what he did. I ain't going to go through all these graphs because it does get confusing. But when he got here, he told me the only reason why he came is because he knew it wasn't coming from the farm. It was coming through the power lines. Because, like I say, every time I was turning something on, the readings would go up, and that's what he said. Every time I was increasing to 240 voltage, the readings going up is an indication it's coming through the utility. So he had a computer set up here. He had a lot fancier. Like he said, a multimeter will give you information, but it's not going to tell you what's going on. Like it was doing for me. It was just indicating that I had a problem. He had a computer set up here and some other control box. He ran a wire to the neutral bar and the fuse panel in there. He ran a wire outside to a ground rod. He had one rod to the pipeline, one wire to the concrete floor there, and another one to this concrete floor. Because actually this is two different levels, because another possibility of getting stray voltage is from me to the cow, where it could be from the pipeline to the cow. So that's where he's measuring all these different things. And And another one was these fluorescent lights. That's another thing that could cause stray voltage. And that was another, like I said, it was $550 to do this test and $50 to test the light because they had to use an oscilloscope where it shows the voltage wave. And them tested fine. So, and this is one of the things he was selling. It's for the fencers. And like this is saying here, where does it say in here? Where I saw it, read it. 95% of farm tested with an electric fence system have stray voltage from the fencing system that is affecting the cattle. Well, at this point, I don't think anything ever indicated it was from the fencer anyhow, but this is just a pamphlet of the thing he sells. But chances are slim because the fencer is in the old milking barn clear up there. The fence does not touch this barn anywhere, so I don't know, like I say, it's possible going through the ground rod, but that wasn't really the problem. But this gives a list of symptoms. Cell make cell counts of 200,000 or higher. And this is where I believe maybe I still have stray voltage, but I still can't find nothing to indicate it right now because my cell counts bounce around. It'll be 170 one week and it'll be 300,000 the next week. Slow milking quarters or milk out, that's not really a problem. Nervousness or unable to keep milkers on, that's not a problem either. I mean, nervousness maybe, but they're not kicking milkers off. Breeding difficulties. Cows are getting bred, but I notice I'm getting a lot of repeat breedings. Problems with first calf heifers, I haven't really noticed a problem there because they're raised in a different barn. Good management and milk production does not improve or decrease. That's the biggest problem. And this is just an overview of what he did. And one thing he did find, he did say he found there was stray voltage in the water pump in the old barn. I don't know how that would affect these down here. He said change that water pump to a 220. It's only a 120 pump up there now. I did change the pump. The pump did go out on me here about 2 years ago. I changed the pump, but I didn't put a 220 in. So, but like I say, right now, the only time that pump runs is when we're watering calves up there. So I don't see it as being that much of a problem. Because it was never a problem before this. I mean, it's been a 120 pump since the 80s. Now, why all of a sudden, like I say, I replaced the pump. So if there's a problem with the pump, putting a new pump on should have been fixed the problem, which still hasn't. Now, this is just a breakdown of what he's checking. He had different channels that he was measuring across. And channel A was from the parlor stalls to the floor. Channel C and H is the voltage between the secondary neutral and earth, so that's between the neutral and the ground. Channel D is the voltage between the pipeline and the floor. And C and H, the only difference between C and H is the main panel, secondary, neutral bus. H is the same thing, but he's just measuring on a higher range. And they did have a highest spike reading of 3.772 volts. So, and that could be from just turning on the motors. First graph I'm going to show here is, this is secondary neutral to reference. Any stray voltage above the red line could indicate some effect on your cattle. 0.25 volts is when it starts affecting cattle. That's the red line. You can see here, he's getting up to 3.5 on these spikes. Now this is, yeah, he started recording. This is where we're turning on vet pump motors and stuff. Now this is the pipeline to F1, which must be the raised parlor floor. And still is getting some spikes, but this is more than likely where we're turning on pump motors, because like I said, that being a 7 horsepower motor, it takes a lot of energy to start it, and that spike is just a millisecond. It's something they're going to feel, but it's not going to really affect them. So here's probably where we turn on all these spikes, or we turn on motors, but then it returns down. So if I remember and I'm understanding this right, the voltage wasn't coming from the pipeline to the floor. It was coming from here. This would be, this would be indicating it's coming from the lines. Because like I say, you had the spikes from turning on the motors, but in between there, it's still above that 0.25. And I say, I'm not going to go through all the other graphs because they're basically breaking down between each channel. It's just the breakdown from like that 12-minute mark to the 18-minute mark, whatever this goes to, as we were going around turning on the motors. But this is the one, this graph shows the stray voltage during the pipeline wash cycle. This would be the same as when you're milking. Note, when the milking pump started at 346 or 1346, and all the spikes are when the transfer pump was starting. The other large spike is when you turn on the tank compressor for about 15 seconds. Now this would be channel A, stalls to the floor. Basically, right there is about 0.25. Get a good angle on this. Okay, 1346. This is where we turned on the vacuum pumps or started the system. This is starting. So this would be the vacuum pump kicking on, drawing the water up, and all these spikes are just the transfer motor pumping, as it would be pumping milk to the tank. And this is where we turned on the bulk tank compressor. Again, it's a 5-horse compressor, so you got that big spike. And then, so this is basically indicating there's no stray voltage coming from the bulk tank compressor, because after that kicked on, it resumed. It didn't add any more to it. So, and right there we're running 0.6 volts, between 0.6 and 0.7 volts across there. And that's from the stalls to the floor. And this is neutral to reference. This would be channel C, whatever I quoted back there before. Same thing. Now this is the pipeline to the floor, channel D. You can see didn't get much above 0.1. It just had the spikes. And what the hell is this one? This is more of the motor startups. This would be turning on water pumps and stuff. You're getting the spikes. So yeah, according to this, I did have stray voltage. What the hell is this one? Secondary to neutral. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, secondary to neutral is channel C and channel H. And just the difference is, like I said before, H is measuring on a higher scale. These are measurements of the voltage that exists between the secondary neutral and the earth. Theoretically, stray voltage should be highest between these points per National Electric Code. Any metal in the facility that could become energized by fault current or lightning must be connected to this neutral for safety purposes. As such, the cow would feel the voltage measurement on this channel while she is standing on the floor in the barn. This voltage should not exceed 0.25 volts. And like I say, I was getting spikes of 6, 7, Channel D, this measurement is of the voltage between the pipeline and the floor. As such, the voltage recorded on this channel is the voltage the cow would feel while she's being milked. So channel D is from the pipeline to where she's standing. This voltage should not exceed 0.1 volts. Now, I say that I think some of them were reading a little bit higher constantly, but it minimally above. It would affect them, but not greatly as what this one was. Channel A was the measurement of the parlor stalls to the man floor and represents a voltage that exists between the stalls and the man floor. As such, when you're touching the cow, she will experience a current flow through her body at the voltage level measured. This stray voltage should not exceed 0.1 volts. So let me see if I can find a channel A chart. Yeah, this is back to the one with the pipeline washing. This is channel A, and it shouldn't be above 0.1. It could be that line right there. And you can see I'm running 6s and 8s. So they're filling it. So they would be filling it through milking. But like I say, that did indicate I had stray voltage. I'm going to do a part 3 where I'm going to explain what was changed, what we did to it, the problems I had with that. And like I say, still have never seen any improvement from it. I mean, I've gone through 2 more nutritionists. I've gone to a different vet clinic, tried talking to them. Nobody's had any other answers. I see nothing has increased. So that's why I say I still feel I might have stray voltage here, but I cannot find anything that indicates it. I say I've played around again today with the multimeter, and all I get is a 0.01. So it's indicating it's been neutralized, but still at a loss. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch up with you later.